and you are looking to gain more clients, create more impact, and more revenue in your business, tune in to Amplify Your Marketing Message with Campbell Rapin. Every week, we're going to take you through how to build an audience of buyers, mastering your marketing message, and making offers that convert consistently. We'll see you all on the inside. Welcome back, my friends. It is time to stop being the ostrich with your head in the sand as it relates to AI. AI was the story of last year. It's not a new concept, but it has definitely become a must-have for you as a business owner. And so today I'm super excited to introduce to you a friend of mine, Matt Rouse. He is an expert. He's written a lot of books in this sphere. He is the guy who's dialed in. And what I really am excited to talk to him about today is predictions about AI specific to the world of small business and entrepreneurs. So give a very warm welcome to Matt. Matt, welcome to our show. It's great to have you here.
Hey, how are you, Christine? Good to see you again.
You too. And what I love about this also, guys, we're also having Canada in the house. And you know, that's not very rare when we're in the business world. So I'm really excited to be coming almost to coast with you. I'm excited to have this conversation. So it's true. I'm going to own this. We are a bit of ostrich in the sand. Lots of us are ignoring what the potential is for AI. But why is AI something that you didn't wait for? Like, why are you already steps and steps ahead of us? And give us the wake-up call we need.
Well, I think a big part of that is because my business partner and I, though we run a marketing agency, we both came from the IT world. Mm-hmm. So we were already heavy into automation. And a lot of automation is not AI. It's programming or algorithm-based stuff. But there are other sources of AI like deep learning systems for data and things like that, you use on a regular basis, whether you know it or not. That could be like just something as simple as getting directions from Google Maps as a deep learning AI system. But what we're talking about now and the big story of 2023 was generative AI. And there's basically two different types of generative AI. There's the ChatGPT type, which you're having a conversation like text-based, or whether you're using it on your phone and you're talking to it. And there's more than just ChatGPT, obviously. There's some other ones too, which we could talk about. Then there's also the image generators and the now video generators as well. And the biggest thing with those is there were several technologies that kind of came in to play together, and a couple big breakthroughs happened at the same time that allowed those to happen. And like it was said by, I believe it was the CEO of Anthropic, who said that the first 3 months of 2023 had the equivalent of 20 years of advancement in AI. So that's why it seems to have come out of nowhere, because it basically did, right?
I love that. And this is the point. I know you and I, when we chatted firstly, the thing that really lingered after our call was the speed at which we're now traveling. And yes, light years are going to happen. And that's why the ignorance and choosing that you can ignore this, I think, will limit your ability to succeed and navigate the changing times. I do think that AI has a really important place to play, but the most important thing to remember, if you're a service-based creative business, is that clients are coming to you to help you navigate the future. And therefore, you need to bring your own thinking and strategies and ideas to the table. You can't simply use AI. But we want to talk about the book, because you've written a book, and it was about whether AI will take your job. And I want to talk about, how do you see AI in the workforce, and do you see them as employees, essentially?
Yeah, so the book's called Will AI Take My Job? Predictions about AI and corporations and small business in the workplace, which, as you just said, what are the predictions for these things? And let me tell you, there is a whole bunch of stuff out there that is basically invisible to the average person right now, because they're just not dialed in with these types of people who share this information. It's not normal for a small business owner to, follow a bunch of of technical graduates, right? On Twitter or something, right? Like they don't go on Reddit and be like, I wonder what's happening in the world of computer data science,
Really?
It's not
I'm glad
something
I'm
that
not the only
people
one.
I know, like it's very, very few and far between. So the things that you also see in the media also have that sort of bias, right? Because and in this case, I mean bias not in a negative way. This is bias at what are the sources they get the information from are only from companies who are publicly putting out press.
Mhm.
So that's your Microsoft, Google, a few other companies. Most of the other ones completely invisible to the average person. So if we wanted to start with a very basic level of AI understanding, I think the first thing that everybody should do is go try out ChatGPT. Just
Mhm.
test it. And when you're going to test it, what you want to do is just start having a conversation with it and pretend that it's your intern, right? So if somebody was going to intern at your company or your business or whatever that is, start having a conversation with them like, if I were to ask you to write this for me, could you do it? Could you go look this thing up for me? Could you go do this? Right. So you kind of have this little conversation and kind of get a feeling for how it works.
Mhm.
But then what you're using when you chat with ChatGPT is, and depending upon when you're listening to this, is going to be the 3.5 version of ChatGPT. If you pay for it, so you're paying for the plus version, it's $20 a month to use the most powerful AI ever made, which is a ridiculous price. I don't know why it's so cheap, but I mean, I'll pay for it all day long. I'd pay for it if it was $200 a month.
Mhm.
The
Interesting.
GPT-4 is not just 10 times better than GPT 3.5. It's also a whole bunch of GPTs all put together who talk to each other to make a result. So you're getting something that, in essence, could be, give or take, it depends what the task is, but it's going to be anywhere from 10 to 20 or 30 times better or more productive than the free version.
I love that you approach this as thinking about a conversation because I think sometimes that got lost in their marketing. And I think people go, I don't know what I would ask. And I love this analogy of think of it like an intern because you want to be looking at the questions because truthfully, ask better questions to get better results. We've talked about that here on the podcast. We've talked about, what are you using for data? Garbage in will be garbage out. But if you think about it as a learning tool, like a learned intern will get better and better and better. The more you use it, the more you coach it, the more you give more specific instructions, the
Mm-hmm.
better off you will be. And at that point, use it to the use as a baseline and then go on. And I love that you also talk about the evolution of it. And truthfully, same thing. If $20 stays a price tag, and it won't, let's be clear, but being someone who is mindful of their bottom line, start your tools today because you're going to have a better chance of getting the system, knowing which ones to stay in at the lowest price point out there in the marketplace because it's only going to go north because the capability is getting better. And that's still a really good trade in efficiency.
I gave a talk for my book and I asked the people there how many people have used an AI system like ChatGPT, and it was about 20%.
Mm.
So we're looking at a very small adoption rate so far. And of those 20%, I asked how many people have used something else like Mid-Journey or, Dolly to create an image or Runway to create a video or recolor a photo or something like that. It was almost no one. So it's very hard for people to see what it can do when no one they know knows what it can do.
Yeah.
Right? That's a very tough thing to get over. And, when you see people who are struggling with, is this email actually from UPS that's asking me to put in my data again, or is it a scam? That, that's the technical level that they're at. And AI seems like it's way up here technical wise, like you got to be a
Mhm.
programmer or something, but it is absolutely not the case. you have to be good at clear communication to use AI. That's the real part that gets it done. And there's some really peculiar things with how AI works that we don't entirely understand yet. But like it acts almost like a person, but it is definitely not a person. It is not like aware or conscious, no matter who tells you on, TikTok or something that they think it is. It's really just, it's a very, very, very complicated parlor trick is what it is. So it's essentially what they've done is they've trained it to, predict what's the most likely thing to come out, in language or whatever that is that it's using. And then they've also trained it using like taking words out of phrases and sentences and then saying, what are the most likely words to fit into these spots? Mm-hmm. And then that's grown into entire paragraphs. And then, like the equivalent of a book chapter kind of thing, where it's able to predict these things. And then there's also something called temperature. And I don't want to get too much into the technical weeds, but if you dial up the temperature, it's kind of like turning up a pot of water on your stove. The hotter you make it, the higher the temperature, the more random the water kind of moves around in the pot. So when they dial up the temperature on the AI, the more variation happens in what it gives back.
Interesting. And I think this is part of where I see opportunity, because I said you can look to the data set, and with good questions, good detail, good learning from it, you can get a standard baseline. However, my friends, this is just my opinion, but quite strongly felt, I want you to go validate this with your buyer, with your audience, because this is taking a ton of data and coming out with the most common total net thing. And that's a great starting place. Right. But it's this fine tuning that, yes, I know I've seen these great pieces of AI where they say, please don't use these words in my paragraph, in my newsletter, in my emails, because I would never say it. It's like, that's your piece, that's your style, that's your personality. And then AI just starts to adjust to it. But you want to really be validating this, because what you never want is the impression, which is what we are running as a consumer basis right now, going, is this AI? Is this a human? You don't ever want that to be a question. No. You want your audience to say, yes, this might be supported, but I still feel the heart. I feel the heart of Matt. I feel the heart of Christine. I know that they're here. And that's where I think video and showing up and, being in the moment is going to be really important for brands and business.
Well, I always say the pendulum swings both ways just as far. Yeah. Right. So the more that there is cheap, easy to create fake things that seem real, the more that people are going to want something that is confirmably real. Yeah. Right. The more that they're going to want something. And we're not far in the generative like video space from having this that we're in right now be an AI that is generating it in real time. And it looks like me and moves like me and uses my voice and talks like me and says things in response. That's not far off. And that's not something that
there's a big brand that has their number one model as an AI generated face.
There are
billions of dollars for this company, and she's not real.
So it's hard to imagine, when, let's say you are a B2B service provider of some kind, you're out there, you're doing your thing, you're implementing whatever it is that you do for your customers, and you're on Zoom meetings and stuff all the time. It's hard to imagine that one of the other people in your Zoom meeting might actually be generated and that you would not be able to tell the difference. Yeah. But that's where it's going to be, right? If you look at a piece of software like Be Human, you record yourself talking like we are right now. And then when you upload audio, it converts that into basically a way for the AI to talk in your voice. And then it does a thing called lip matching, where it matches the movements of your lips to the audio. So then you've got a model that is you, moved around and animated by the computer with its lips that match the talking that's in your voice.
Yeah.
Even though you either are sending it, a spreadsheet full of things to say, or you have a blurb that you've pre-recorded and it's just inserting the different people's names and company names and information in your voice and then sending that out to tens or hundreds or even tens of thousands of people.
Yeah, and this is interesting because it's the capability is there, and that's what I said where it's so important to know. You have to equip yourself with the knowledges. You still get to choose which pieces you bite into, which
Mhm.
pieces you want to do. And we know we've had an episode with my friend Barbara Gracia on there. Here we're talking about the legal side of copyright and infringements and who owns the data and all of those things that are still going to be many, many years, many billions of dollars in the court system to figure out. And at the same time, equip yourself to know what's possible because truthfully, we do have ways to leverage this technology right now, and it will only get better. That can make us more efficient, help us streamline things. So, where we add the most value is in the value creation we uniquely bring. That's our
Right.
brain, our intellect, our opinions. And that's something which I think we need to really own. And we've been struggling for years saying, we want to lean into authenticity. We know it was the word of the year last year, but honestly, it's the biggest thing we're still struggling to do.
Right.
I think. So, where do you think entrepreneurs need to step in so that they can do more with less?
The biggest problem that people face is, what do I do with it? How do I get started? What makes this worth the time to figure it out? Right. And just like anything, if you're, a business person, you are already taxed for time. So the idea of having to learn more software or something is not appealing to most people. So what you have to do is understand some of the basic capabilities and then figure out where it can actually give you back the time that you're spending on things that you don't want to do. And I would say number one is analyzing or summarizing documents. So someone sends you something, it's an insurance document or something, it's 30 pages long. You want to understand how your coverage works, but you don't want to read 30 pages. You upload that into your paid version, right, of ChatGPT or into, Claude or something. And then you ask it questions. You can say, this is the insurance document for the building that my company owns. We are this type of company. We are a trade person or a manufacturer, whatever it is. I want to understand the basics of my coverage and, what would happen if something, if there was some kind of an accident or a fire in my building. And it will read the whole document, summarize all that information, and then give that to you in a summary. And now you can read 3 paragraphs instead of 30 pages. Yeah. So that's a quick way that you could do it. You can also have it summarize long emails. Maybe there was a meeting and you were sick and you couldn't make it, and there's a transcript from the meeting. You can say, summarize this and tell me anything where it mentioned my name that I might have to do something, that kind of thing. There's also, meeting summary tools out already. Mm-hmm. Another really handy thing is the idea of having a conversation with a document or with, a data set. And when I say data set, I mean like, a spreadsheet or something like that. So here's a really easy example. Maybe you sell e-commerce, right? You sell online. So you have sales data that's come back. You can take all of the orders that you have in one big document, upload it, and say, which state it has the largest amount of shipping cost, but the lowest amount of sales. And it's going to give you that information. Or if I had to focus on the just selling to the top 10 provinces or states in North America, what would those be? And it's going to be like New York, California, Texas, Ontario, whatever, right? Now you can talk to your data. It's like having a data analyst who's already read it all, and you get to have a conversation with them, but you don't have to hire a data analyst, right?
I love that. That's the one that piques my interest. That and some of the admin side, because truthfully, with my own lens, looking through the data, I'm only seeing what I think is the most valid. But if you can bring in the data, the set that said to the audience that's listening, based on the demographics, the information we all retain, what do they think will be the most interesting? I bet the answers would be different. And this is going to be a light bulb moment when that's the key to this. Great knowledge should build a light bulb moment so that you have better decision making, more confidence in your decision making, and speed of decision making is going up. And I heard yesterday a stat from a good friend on LinkedIn who said, like, the average human being makes 35,000 decisions every single day. Well, what happens if you could skim that down to simplify the things that you needed to focus on? And AI, and generative AI specifically, is going to help us do that. So it's time to get our heads out of the sand. And I know you're ahead of the curve. And I love that you talk about the fact, you're in that tech community, you run a very tech-focused digital company. I want to know with you right now, what's working in your business to create impact, to bring in new clients, and to see more value creation in your business?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of talk about using AI to write things, how it's not a copywriter or it shouldn't be making your posts on your behalf, right? But there is something that people skim over, which is there is nothing wrong with having something take what you've said and summarize it, just like we're talking about summarizing documents. AI is very, very good at summarizing things accurately. And we should take one moment just to talk about accuracy. The AI is trained to predict what text is most likely to fulfill whatever the request is. It does not understand the difference between a factual piece of information and a fictional piece of information.
So good.
Right? So the more important that it is that it's accurate is the more time and energy you want to spend on checking it. So if it's something like, you're uploading a file to see if somebody has a cancerous lesion in their lung, you better have a radiologist check it too, right? But if it's a summary of a social media post that's going on LinkedIn, maybe you just skim it. It's not life-threatening. So anyway, always double check, right? But like I said, if you're going to have it save you time, don't spend as much time as you would have spent writing it yourself, because that kind of defeats the purpose. Sorry. Okay. So let's talk for a moment about how you could use AI systems. And I'm going to name a few. You can always write them down or you can look them up after. Okay. So we would, in our company, if I was to make a recording like we're doing right now, okay, this would be what we call the primary piece of content. So from this content, we're going to take it and put it into an app called Runway ML. And Runway ML will create a transcription that also has time codes. And that is what you upload into YouTube. So if you're going to upload this into YouTube, then now you can also upload the transcript. Now that you have a transcript, you can put it into ChatGPT and you can translate the transcript. So now I can translate it in up to about 80 languages if you have the time. We usually do 3. We do English, French, Spanish. So now my YouTube video is not only going to be shown to an English-speaking audience, it's also going to catch the French-speaking audience and the Spanish-speaking audience because I have subtitles in those languages. The translation of that takes about 2 minutes. So it's fast, right? Now that you have your transcript, you can take that and you can put it in to your ChatGPT or Claude or Bard or whatever it is that you use. And you can say, I want you to summarize this to the 3 most important parts and then describe who your customer is, right? So if your customer is mid-sized B2B companies with 100 to 500 staff, you say, please summarize this for, the CMO of a company who has, works in a company with 100 to 500 staff, roughly $100 million revenue a year. It'll do it, right? Now you've got the 3 most important points. From this transcript, write a blog article about point number 1. Point number 2. Point number 3. Now you have 3 blogs. You can go edit those, put your own little spin on each one, whatever it is that you want to do. Then you can say, I want you to create a social media post about number 1. Create a post about number 2. Now you've got your social media posts. And then we're going to take this same video and we're going to put it in a app that we call Munch. And it's actually Get Munch, GETMUNCH is Get Munch. Get Munch will take the video, automatically determine somewhere between about 8 and 20 clips, depending on how long your video is, automatically cut them into vertical video, automatically put the captions on. It does the karaoke words where it says the word as you're saying it, highlights the word. Also gives you hashtags, gives you a Twitter/X post to go along with it, gives you a description for the video. And then you just upload those straight into your TikTok, Reels, YouTube, Shorts. You can also go back and have it cut them square. You can upload that into LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. So all of this content process takes about 4 hours. And I know that's a lot of time, but we're a marketing company, right? So we're making this content for people. That process used to take us 14 hours. So we have cut that down from 14 hours to 4 hours. And we used to make about 8 pieces of content in that 14 hours. And now we're making 50. So we can get more production. It's less prone to errors. Our people are spending their time proofreading and improving content rather than having to come up with it. And also, we're not spending our time doing things like cutting videos to the right size. Software does it.
I hope everybody's listening is like me, who's going, poof, because it is not about you choosing to do all those 4 hours. That's what I want you to hear. I want you to hear that you could go from 14 to 4, take the percentage and go, what am I doing now? How many hours am I spending? Could I do less? And more importantly, can you create more content with what you already have? I think so often we get on the hamster wheel of content generation. And I know this was my brain light bulb last year. I could slow it down and do more with what I have and have even bigger impact.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that. I wrote a book 3 years ago called Flattening the Hamster Wheel. Mm-hmm. The idea of flattening the hamster wheel is getting more from the content that you already have instead of constantly trying to come up with something new. I would bet 90% of the people listening to this right now or watching this have a Google Drive or some other kind of cloud-based drive that is filled with content and information that they never look at again, that they could be repurposing to give to their clients.
100%.
There's a presentation. I
was in that exact moment going, I could redo the blogs I've been doing for the last 4 years as I migrate systems. All of that content, I've got new audience all the time. That would still be relevant. It could bring it current, but that's a 30-minute exercise than an hour exercise. You
can take your 5, 6, whatever year-old blog post, copy it, paste it into ChatGPT, say, this is from, 2017. Could you update this for 2023? And then you read it over and you go, okay, you know what? I also want to mention this. I want to kind of change this one thing. Maybe I'll update the photo, republish it. Now you got a blog post that took you 15 minutes instead of 2 hours.
Yeah. Guys, I hope you feel super inspired. How do they find you, Max? I think you're a remarkable human being.
Thanks. MatthewRouse.com. It's Matthew with 2 T's. So it's MatthewRouse.com. And all our books and companies and all the things are on there.
Guys, I want you to go connect to Matt. I want you to engage with social media. It's time to stop being head in the sand. There is so much potential. And I'm not saying go to 0 to 100. What I'm doing is inviting you to take the one next step and take one thing from this episode and go, I'm going to start to learn. Because like AI, you need to invest the time to compound for the results. Thanks for being our guest, Matt. That's it for our amazing episode, all about how to harness AI and predict how AI is going to help us as entrepreneurs. Thanks for being our guest today. We'll see you all on our next episode. See you soon. That's a wrap on another amazing episode of Amplify Your Marketing Message with me, your host, Christine Campbell Rapin. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss another great episode. And be sure to visit christinecampbellrapin.com/podcast to get a free resource on how to master your marketing message. We'll see you all on our next episode.